It's your friendly neighborhood Dustin. That doesn't work. Um, there hasn't been much music or films released this week, but I went to a great concert Tuesday night. I saw the Dirty Projectors and Purity Ring play. Uh, and the interesting thing about Purity Ring is that they're one of the most recent bands to have blown up the blogosphere, and it reminds me of how fast media is traveling these days, and what it means to be a fan and to truly love music. Pardon me, there's some... It sounds like a roller coaster. That's the J train. You might ask why I'm wearing a Philadelphia Phillies t-shirt. As some of you may know, I'm from New Mexico, but we actually don't have a baseball team outside of the University of New Mexico's baseball team. But my great-grandfather was from Philadelphia, actually, and I just bought this shirt, and I've decided to take an interest in sports. Actually, that's not true. I've been a Philadelphia Phillies fan for as long as I can remember. My grandfather used to take me to baseball games when I was very young. But I could have just bought this shirt, and I could have just decided to take an active interest in baseball. I've been taking an active interest in things lately. I think that that's a really interesting thing, that you can just put on a shirt or a hat and become someone that you weren't 5 minutes before. I could pick up a tambourine right now and say that I'm a percussionist. All it takes is 20 minutes with the internet and the right outlook or wardrobe, and suddenly you can become an authority on really almost anything. I mean, I could just say, that I, despite never having heard of the Philadelphia Phillies until last week, think that the pitching roster that they put together in the last 3 years of Hamels, Worley, Lee, and Blanton, is just monumental in the schematics of team baseball. As opposed to just buying players that have gotten a bunch of good publicity or have won MVP 5 years in a row. They've assembled a team that is dynamic. That's an opinion that I could have based on no prior knowledge of the sport. I could spend 45 minutes on Wikipedia and watch 12 minutes of a baseball game, or no minutes of a baseball game, and, with a t-shirt and the right mug of beer in my hand, be an authority. That's not the case. I actually don't really understand much of the game, but I find it very soothing, and it reminds me of my grandfather. So, for that reason, I like the Philadelphia Phillies. It's nice that they've been doing well. Although this year, they've been fifth more or less the entire year, but it has more to do with the ritual nostalgia of the game, and I'm also a very big fan of the Peanuts. But back to the larger point that I was making, I could have just bought this shirt. I could have just bought this hat. In fact, this hat was given to me by a dead man outside of Taos, New Mexico. Clearly a dead man didn't give it to me. It belonged to a dead man. Who I am named after. But that's beside the point. I could have bought it, and, because it looks old and American, start wearing it and say that I'm into rustic antiques and donuts. But I'm not. I don't like donuts. I find that the consistency is never what you think it's going to be, and that you start eating one and then immediately regret it. But anyway, I saw Purity Ring on Tuesday, and it just reminded me that the internet has done amazing things for the advancement of music. It has shared music across the entire world at a speed that we could never have imagined 15 years ago, but on the same token, it's allowed one opinion to metastasize so quickly that before a band has released an album, a meticulously put together collection of songs, 500,000 kids in major American cities and other countries as well are deciding the fate of this band, and for better or for worse, that band may hear these opinions and may begin to craft their own songs and ideas in reaction to that, and it's got me worried. for as long as I can remember, longer than I've been a fan of the Philadelphia Phillies, music has been one of, if not the only things that makes sense to me in a world where many things do not inherently make sense. Sense beyond logic. And I love the idea that music criticism has imploded in many ways, has spread out across the globe and the internet, and that anyone with a, a mediocre grasp on the English language can write about songs that they heard. And I love the idea that more and more people every day are hearing music. A whole different argument about paying for it. I have varied views on that, which perhaps we can talk about next week. But I love the idea of music being shared. It's more or less what I devote my entire life to, but there is something about truly loving music with care and consideration, and knowing that the intricacies of a record can't be unfolded in one listen or 12 minutes or a sentence on a blog somewhere. And I feel like maybe the number of people in this world who care in that way is diminishing with advancements in other areas. You can read one blog report and feel like you know everything about a band, or you're an authority. But I want to know what happened to loving a band for years, to following them through city after city. And I'm not talking about the Grateful Dead and sitting in, parking lots and smoking pot. Although if you happen to follow the Grateful Dead or, any of Phil Lesh's later bands and you like pot, then that's fine. I have never really understood the Grateful Dead. Although I read an article in The Atlantic that says if you they've released a box set, which is quite spectacular. My point is, I could read an article on the internet and buy a Purity Ring t-shirt and never have seen them live or listened to their record, and already know something that 20 years ago you would have had to listen to a record and follow and love a band to know. I don't know if any of this made sense. It's not my normal. But you should check out Purity Ring and their record Shrines. I don't know why I like it so much. I haven't listened to it enough to give you an opinion. But I saw a lot of other people that seemed to like them too, and I hope that at least a few of them were hearing them for the first time, maybe, and hadn't formed an opinion yet. And maybe the next year, the Philadelphia Phillies will do better. I'm still Dustin. Have a good evening.